D'Angelo as an artist because he was living in his purpose.
Yeah.
And so you connected with me on purpose.
There you go.
So it wasn't a disruption at all. Africans versus Caribbean, I feel done.
100%.
So when I say that all of our like generational traumas
Yes.
are connected to like political issues, economic issues and so on, because all of that, those migrations for economics broke up family. Our concept of an individual is an illusion because really an individual only makes sense within the context of its relationship to other human beings, right? So in a sense, much of what we call an individual is a false identity.
Right.
Yeah, like we were not born in and of ourselves, regardless of the circumstances of our birth. Our birth required other people.
Greetings and salutations. I'm your host, Alicia Mullings, and this is the Sense Only podcast. This podcast is for people who are tired of the distraction in the world, the disconnection in the world, and the noise of the world. It's also for people who know that we need to be the change that we'd like to see in the world. Today, my amazing guest is the one ShakaRa, who's come to bless us with all his knowledge. And today we're going to have a conversation about identity. Brother ShakaRa,
Thank you.
I will allow you to tell us all the wonderful things about you.
So first of all, I just want to give thanks for this space, give thanks for the invitation.
Most welcome.
And the manner in which the invitation came.
You're welcome to share it.
No, so you know what I mean. You know what I mean. So yeah, we'll come back to that. What just to say, so my name is ShakaRa. Tafadzwa ShakaRa Bandaka, mostly known as ShakaRa, and I am a born and raised Pan-Africanist organizer. In the Black community, which really means that I've been involved in things like organizing African-centered Saturday schools attending as a child, and then being involved in administering African-centered Saturday schools for the majority of my adult life, similar youth work, things like Kwanzaa celebrations, owning businesses that are serving our community. I am a spoken word artist, which means that I'm a master of the word. I am also the director of a media institution called Kimbunga Media. We discuss, topics of a geopolitical nature, cultural nature, and one of the main projects that I'm involved in at the moment with Kimbunga is developing the Black Group Economics Show, where we're going to be teaching our community about economics from our own perspective. I've done much work, as I said, working with young people, and so issues, social issues of identity, of manhood in particular, of self-development, of self-empowerment. These kinds of things are very much within the remit of topics that I'm passionate about, but also had the opportunity to work in. And so I appreciate being here as it relates to the manner of the invitation. It was beautiful, brothers and sisters. So as we know, sadly, one of the greatest artists of our generation has gone to meet the ancestors recently, D'Angelo. And it's possible that you might come onto this later, but D'Angelo was an artist that had a major impact upon me, my own musical development as somebody who was actually making music, at the time during the time that he was, on the scene. And so it was a healing experience for Got Soul to put on an event in tribute of D'Angelo. And Alicia just happened to be in the house, you know what I'm saying? And recognized me and approached me and said, "Greetings, would you like to be on my podcast?" So I said, "Yeah, let's let's do it." You know what I mean?
When opportunity knocks.
Right. So yeah, it was definitely interesting, and so here we are. You know what I mean? Here we are. Here we are.
I must say, I was reluctant, because you looked like you was having such a good time. I don't want to disturb the vibe.
No, I was. No, but it wasn't a disruption in the vibes at all. One of the things that I was reflecting on that night, and a few nights that I had around that time had me reflecting on is living your purpose. And you've spoken on this before through your work, but I was reflecting on the impact that D'Angelo had on me as an artist, because he was living in his purpose.
Yeah.
And so you connected with me on purpose.
There you go.
So it wasn't a disruption at all. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
Thank you. Oh, if you ever knew that, how much I had to build myself up for that. It's like, oh, Leash, find some kahunas from somewhere, girl. Come on. I did.
Or ovaries, as the case may be. You know
wow. So, I was borrowing from other men them in the room, innit?
Yeah, you know.
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, we're here, and I'm glad that I found that from somewhere.
Yes,
and
yes.
and thank you for receiving me and my randomness.
No, it's okay.
Just pull up on you in the dance.
I'm comfortable with randomness. I'm very comfortable.
That's good, man. See, there you go. The spirit of D'Angelo is still delivering gifts for us, man. It's bringing people together.
Absolutely.
And in that, what you just said, we'll give a shout out to Got Soul.
Yes, indeed. 100%.
And Hey Essa.
100%. Yes.
So let's talk about why we're here.
Yes.
The topic of identity.
Yes.
So you just touched on several things. I'm like, I don't know where to start. You know what? Before the cameras were rolling, we was talking about male identity, and you just said that that's one of your things.
Right.
I'll let you expand on that. Let's start there.
So, all right, let me pull it in before I get to the male thing. It's probably best to put it in the context of our peoplehood.
Okay.
Yeah, as Black people, as what I would say as African people, as African Caribbean people, and I think you talk about getting away from the noise of the world a lot, and I think especially living in the United Kingdom of Great Britain in this dispensation of time, it's very easy to lose that level of our identity.
100%.
Right? Partly because we're encouraged more and more to submerge ourselves in this British identity. It's partly because when we are encouraged to acknowledge our own identity, we're encouraged to acknowledge it in the context of commercial products,
right,
like music, food, and things like that.
Right.
And then those things are allowed to be commodified by the dominant society in which we live, as contributions to the dominant society, when a significant amount of the development of those expressions of our culture was a form of resistance to Britain and British society. When we lose that, like the question then becomes that is that resistance no longer relevant today? Because that would be the only justification for us losing it, if that makes sense. That resistance as it relates to those expressions, right? And if it is still relevant, then is there a danger in us losing that? Yeah, for the sake of aspiring to this new Britishness that we're encouraging at the moment. And what I'm saying all of that is to say that oftentimes within the society in which we live, identity is very individualistic. Yeah? We're taught to consider ourselves, right? As individuals, isolated from family, from community, from peoplehood, from history, from culture. From the cultures from which we come, that's really quite an alien idea.
Yes, complete opposite.
Right, because we see ourselves in the context of family, in the context of community, in the context of nation. It doesn't mean that we don't have an individuality, right? That we don't have a self.
Right.
Yeah, that nobody can experience what you experience as you are experiencing it. There is an element of that, but that's personhood is understood to exist within the context. That I'm a student of a now ancestor called Amos Wilson, and he speaks about this in the sense of what our concept of an individual is an illusion, because really an individual only makes sense within the context of its relationship to other human beings, right? So in a sense, much of what we call an individual is a false identity.
Right.
Yeah? Like we were not born in and of ourselves, regardless of the circumstances of our birth. Our birth required other people, right, to be involved in that process.
Right.
And if those of us who have had the pleasure of being or our parents, we were involved in the process of bringing other people into being.
100%.
Right?
Yep.
And so that's our culture. There's a saying in Zulu, Muntu, Ungu Muntu, Ungabantu. A person is a person because there are people.
Love that.
Or said another way, I am because we are. Since we are, therefore I am. That's what they call the Ubuntu central principle.
Right.
Yeah? And so I'm coming to the manhood thing.
Okay.
But it's like, I'm saying all of that because within the context of that this individual identity, there's a lot of talk now about generational trauma.
Right.
And resolving generational trauma. But like the key term in there is generational, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just you. Yeah. Like you have to consider what has come before you in order to resolve those traumas.
Yes.
But those traumas are not isolated to like a family unit. The Black family in this dispensation of time is the product of a whole lot of experiences that are political and economic in nature.
Yeah.
They're not just social, they're not just personal. And we can't resolve those traumas unless we're dealing with that big picture.
Yeah.
And so when we get to manhood, our definition of manhood, specifically for us as Black men, has to consider all of those factors.
Right.
For us to be able to really look at where we get our definitions from, whether those definitions are functional or not, the extent to which our aspiration towards achieving these definitions are doing us harm or are allowing us to flourish, and whether the definitions are good or bad or not. Do we exist in a social environment that allows us to achieve whatever our concept of manhood is? And so because in this day and age, there is a justifiable reckoning in terms of misogyny, in terms of sexism, in terms of patriarchy, and what it has produced in terms of the oppression of women, a lot of us as men, and Black men in particular, are very confused.
Right.
And that becomes particular as it relates to Black men because of the fact that whereas it is said that, where we know that women experience gender oppression, people often don't recognize the fact that there's a form of gender oppression that men who are marginalized within the society experience on the basis of race. Yeah. Because of the fact that it is perceived to be the case, and often is the case, that the most likely form of violent resistance from a violent system is going to come from the men who are being acted violently against.
Right.
Yeah. And so there's so much happening, and a lot of that now is projected through a resistance that is destructive. And I've been very, very critical. For those who follow me, you would know of things like the manosphere, and a lot of what comes through what they call men's rights movements, because I find it to be destructive. I find it to be definitions of manhood that are combative in relation to women and womanhood in ways that are dysfunctional.
Right.
And a lot of men, young men, I was doing a workshop with a group of young boys in a school, and we got onto, I can't remember how we got into it, because it actually wasn't the topic of the workshop, right? But we got into this manhood conversation. And sometimes when the youth then bring up something, sometimes what I've prepared goes out the window, right? Because something live has happened.
Yeah.
So it led to me asking, so where do you get your ideas of what it means to be a man? And one of the youth, this is the youth like 13, 14, one of them said, Andrew Tate.
Wow.
Yeah. So I was about to ask you, because I don't want to assume if you're familiar with you, Andrew Tate. Right, okay, right. So I was like, now this is a 13, 14-year-old boy.
Right.
Now, I'm not an expert on Andrew Tate, but nothing that I've seen of him has inspired anything as far as functionality, as far as manhood is concerned. So when young boys are getting their definitions of manhood from them man there, well, I in the position that I'm in, I have to look at why and where that is coming from.
Right.
And so it's a sign for me that, yeah, there is a lot of confusion. And in the absence of positively affirming functional definitions of manhood, boys will seek and find and emulate dysfunctional ideas of what manhood are. And Black boys in particular will be particularly susceptible to that because of the ways in which the society in which we live attacks our manhood, as black men.
So it's a case of how do we interject? Because if that's what they gravitate into, or if they may not even be just gravitating to it, it maybe that's all they see. You know, it's like, what can the rest of us do? As you said, you've set up things yourself, and we're very aware of, especially here in London, there's other groups.
Yes.
But what can we do to, I guess, highlight what people like yourselves are doing more?
Yep.
So these young men who may be just living on the social media or wherever and getting the most negative things coming through their algorithm, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Like, how do we interject that? How do we intercept that?
First and foremost, we have to accept the idea that positively affirming manhood does exist.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That to be a man is not necessarily to be destructive. Is not necessarily to be oppressive to women. That there is a complementarity that exists in what a man is defined as that complements what a woman is. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see.
And a lot of the time we don't have that. It's like because of that there's a whole academic and social movement that is designed to deconstruct like manhood whilst constructing womanhood, as because manhood is not something that requires construction, if that makes sense, in this environment that we're in. Because again, it's seen as fundamentally negative. It's seen as toxic. We have to embrace the idea manhood, and black manhood in particular, is a force for good.
Yeah.
And a force for good as exemplified by various different examples of black manhood, whether it's our fathers, our brothers, with whatever challenges they may bring to the table, whether it's our great ancestors, you know, whether it's Malcolm X or Marcus Garvey, whether it's Shaka Zulu, like there are archetypes of manhood that exist that exemplify something that is worthy of transmitting to our young men and our young women. We have to do that. And then our ancestors had it correct in the sense of like becoming a man wasn't an accident.
Right.
It wasn't a matter of the age that you are. It wasn't a matter of when the first time, you know, you are able to cross the heavenly boundary. And become, you know, sexually active. You know what I'm saying? You know?
Okay,
yeah, man. You know, these are all important rites of passage in life. Okay. But these things were not left to chance. Right? In our indigenous cultures, and these are, and so when we speak about generational trauma, like we have to look at what did we bring with us that was broken down, and why, and what impact did it have on us, right? And these are the kinds of work that people like myself do. And so there are many in our community who have established rites of passage programs for boys to consciously bring boys into manhood,
right?
In terms of their gender and cultural identity, for them to be able to manifest something positive upon that foundation. I think the institutionalization of bringing boys into manhood is extremely important.
100%.
Yeah, in this environment. And that's the only way we're going to solve a lot of these problems. Out of that, there also does need to be, because of the effectiveness of this social media onslaught, Andrew Tate and the rest of them, there does need to be a popular projection in that sense, a mass media projection, as a tool for combating a lot of the other stuff that is out there. Very difficult because it's negatively affirming products are easier to market within this environment.
Right.
Yeah, what, you know, passa fly up on social media very quickly. And it's easier for a man to say something dysfunctional and destructive about women to go viral than it is for a man to say, yeah, you see me, I love woman, you know. I love the woman them where a doctor and a liar. I love the woman them where a mother and a grandmother. More difficult for a man who has no interest in reducing women to whether they're 5s or 6s on whatever barometer of beauty that they've defined. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like to have a conversation about beauty that is deeper than that.
Right.
Yeah, it's a more difficult conversation for people to comprehend, because our minds have been so trained to respond, even if we disagree. Even those of us who disagree are more responsive to this thing than to that thing.
Yeah.
Right? We're more likely to click on this thing to share it so we can cuss it out,
Right.
than to click on this thing because we agree with it to positively reinforce what was in that message. But that we need to find a way to do that. And there are some who are doing that, and I forget the man's name, but there are some brothers who have had a podcast on being fathers. I can't remember all of their names, forgive me. But yeah, I've seen them, you know what I'm saying? And they've got quite popular. Just that some of them are single fathers, some of them are co-parenting, they're not with the mothers of their children, but they're co-parenting. All of those things, we need to be able to have those examples and proliferate them in the spaces in which we live now.
Ongoing thinking process, especially I'm very conscious of all the young boys and young men coming up, and especially there's so many in my family as well, so it's little people that I'm somewhat influential over, and I'm like, what can we do? What can we do to help, you know? And I know we're women, granted, so we can't do men things. I'm like, but I still sit in a space of trying to troubleshoot and trying to contribute as much as I can. You know, like, I was very fortunate and very blessed to come from a family with, as I've shared on this podcast before, a gazillion people. So therefore, the huge portion is going to be men. And thankfully, there are men that I can very much pour respect and love on, and say they're very inspirational for me. As well as everybody else in the family, and I'm very aware, as we shared also, that not everybody has that. But I'm like, okay, so therefore, because I feel like I'm in the more, what word could I use? I've got that privilege. So I'd love to outsource my experience and what I had, what could be set up to kind of, I guess, replicate such healthy dynamics in terms of, I guess, the exchange of men and women as well.
Absolutely. You know what? You're kind of doing that, in the sense of you featured a number of men on your podcast that are coming from different positions, but all of whom are having relevant conversations that are needed for our community. Some specifically in relation to men, but some just for our community in general. And the exposure of more of those men is important. I think, though, that you say that you're privileged, and in one sense you may be. I think that you're less privileged than you might think. I think I've observed the phenomena, and I've not studied this, scientifically, but as I say, it's easier for negativity to fly. Sometimes it does appear to be the case that people, or let's say women in this instance, who have positive experiences of men in their lives are sometimes more likely to speak about the negative experiences of men in their life. I mean, I say that, like, for example, there are a lot of single people, and there are a lot of single women who are dating and having negative experiences dating. Right. But in within that conversation, you will have women who are married, by virtue of the fact that you're married, right, and in a functional relationship, let's say, are having some positive experiences with some men in your life, right? And it doesn't seem sometimes as though those experiences factor into the conversations as much as they probably could. Right. Now, and I'm saying that in relation to women because we're talking about men. Yes. Because the same is true. The same dynamic is true on the other side. Right. I've had conversations with like my brothers and my cousins, and man, them can sit around and complain about woman all day. And we had this experience one time. Like, we went to my grandma's house. We was there, and we hadn't seen each other like all together for a long time. So a lot of just noise. In my generation, it's a lot of boys, right? So we were just there, and we're all grown now. So we got pitney and rated. So, but we ain't seen each other for a while, so it's very boisterous energy. And the man them are complaining about being mother and rated and rare. My dad is, when we're all in the kitchen, there's quite a big kitchen at my grandma's house. My dad's in the kitchen cooking, and this was going on for 20 minutes, half an hour. And my dad stopped the conversation. He said, I'm listening to you all, and no one time when I complain about being mother and rated. And he said, young men need to have more conversations about the kind of men they want to be.
Nice.
Yeah, the kinds of fathers they want to become and are being. Yeah, it's one thing to discuss what the woman them do and not do and rate, but your own men discuss man. Yeah, you know what I'm saying, and so these are the right. It's if these little triggers in terms of the conversations that we have that we need to check, right? Because we often feed a lot of the dynamics that we don't want to see by our lack of focus on the dynamics that we do want to see, and our lack of ability to, as a community of men, reinforce the things that we want to see in ourselves in each other.
And it's what are you manifesting?
Right.
Basically.
Right. I agree, because a whole bunch of men can complain about their baby mother as if them never give them the picnic with them have.
There you go. You chose her.
Right, it was part of the process, right? You know what I'm saying? So, you know what I mean? So yeah, you know. So yeah, it's those little things. But again, it comes from a place. Do you know what I'm saying? And so we just need we need more that puts the mirror up in front of us. Yeah. In that regard, and encourages us to think more productively. Whether that's to challenge ourselves or to reinforce what is good about ourselves.
One of the things that's always kind of been heavy in my heart, and I don't know if I'm just being overly optimistic because this is just how I live. But I've had it in my heart for a very long time, because as we've also shared when we was chatting earlier, that home, whoever's home is so important. Yes. And as I was saying to you in terms of me, how I feel when I return back to yard, any time I go to Jamaica, I'm like, it's not even a vacation. Yeah. It is literally my battery getting refilled up as the plane is circling over Sangster. Absolutely. And I'm like, the clouds break and we're coming in. Absolutely. Heart to Jamaica, seriously. And I'm sure other people feel that about wherever their home is, literally. So I say that to say, I'm fortunately in a position in my life where I can take myself home. Yeah. Because it's so important, I feel holistically in terms of well-being. Yes. Would you say that there's a value if, I guess us now, we're the elders now.
We're getting there, you know?
We're getting there. Set up something or organise something to take the youngsters home more.
Oh, absolutely.
If their family can't do it, you know, because as we say, it takes village to raise these children, and not necessarily people who are blood related. It's just people who love and care for them. Yeah. There's individual families who can do that, but for those who can't, do you see the value in us, I don't know, forming something where we can do that? We take them home, because that needs to be tied into education, I feel, personally. Absolutely.
Just to say, just to mirror your experience, whenever I go, like anywhere that I consider back home, so my family's from Jamaica and Antigua, and I had that same experience that you just described. I hadn't been to Antigua since I was 4 years old up until this year, as I explained to you earlier. And like literally, as the plane flew over, and you could start to see land. And I just remember this massive smile on my face, because I haven't been to this place in over 30 years, and it just felt like home, right? You know what I'm saying? And one of my most pleasurable feelings that I ever have is when I step off the plane, so and the warmth just, right? Yeah. I remember feeling like that the first time I went to Ghana in 2015. And that, you know, like, so every time I go, like, I wait for that feeling. It's a mad. It's like the country just embracing you. Yeah. The whole land is just embracing you. And especially important again, as I say, because I feel like we're to a significant degree we're losing our identity in this place. The connection to home, like, it helps us to understand our ancestors that much more. Visiting the village in which my grandmother was born, for example. Learning. Now, I'm a coming from my father, I'm a great fan of cricket. One of my favorite fast bowlers back in the day was a man called Curtly Ambrose. Okay. And I actually met him when I was actually in Antigua. Nice. But what I didn't know until just before I went, that he is actually from the village that my grandmother was born. Yeah, I didn't know that before, right? You know, so yeah, that's the context in which I met him, because a lot of the man them had a village Sweets, yeah. Shout out to people from Sweets, yeah. But they had a village reunion, and so that's the context in which I was able to meet Curtly Ambrose. But just being there, and you know, and then also being in that space, because like half my mother's family went, and so I'm hearing a lot more of the stories of my grandmother and her generation. I met uncles of my grandfather who died when I was like 5-6 years old. Like relatives who I've never met before. And just because they never met us before, but your so-and-so grandson, all right, you know, and you're hearing these stories. But then it's like, so me now, led me to a reflection in the sense of something that's obvious, and I thought about before, but it brought it back to mind. I would not have been born had it not been for the fact that some Africans were kidnapped from the west coast of Africa, and some of them were transported to Jamaica, and some of them were transported to Antigua, and then those islands were colonized by Britain. And after what I call Mass European War II, World War II explanation, because it was really a European war that they dragged everybody else into, right? Right? But after those wars, because of the fact that both these islands were colonized, the people from those islands came to Britain. Yeah, and that's the context in which my mother and my father met. You see what I'm saying? Like my grandfather passed away just under a year ago, and he was born in Cuba, but both his parents are actually from Jamaica. His mother was raised in Cuba from relatively young. His father traveled to Cuba, and that's the context in which he was born. But they traveled to Cuba again because of colonization in Jamaica, and the fact that because of how the colonial structure was working at the time, people traveled for work. And so Cuba became one of the major places to go for work. Why? Because a company called the United Fruit Company, who is now called Chiquita, that produced most of the bananas that are in our supermarket to this day, were dominating land and agriculture throughout South Central America and the Caribbean. So when I say that all of our like generational traumas are connected to like political issues, economic issues, and so on, because all of that, those migrations for economics broke up families. And you know, I'm not going to go into all but my grandfather lived with a lot of that throughout his life, and obviously that has a reflection on my parents' generation, and therefore my generation. And so understanding all of these things within that context, there's a whole cultural education that comes with it. There's a whole reinforcing of identity, because one of the things that allows our identity to be replaced is because we're now disconnected from our elders, disconnected from our ancestors. And the danger in that politically is that we will never fully overcome the generational traumas that we have unless we're able to reconcile with that history, but also how that history manifests itself today. We just had a hurricane in Jamaica. Like, we have to address the fact one of the major reasons why hurricanes affect Jamaica so badly is because of the issue of underdevelopment, which is a colonial and a neo-colonial issue. We can't avoid it. Whilst we're sending all of our aid and all of our relief, we've all done it. We've sent money, we've sent cleaning products and battery and light and, you know, all these things. The reality is there are countries in which a hurricane just like that is not going to have so much devastation.
It's true.
And there is no reason on earth why it needs to. It's not necessary that these things must affect us. The same with, let's not forget the fact that Haiti and Cuba were also hit by this hurricane, and more people died in Haiti than anywhere else from I've understood now. And again, that's because of the deliberate forms of underdevelopment that have taken place in Haiti for over 200 years. Why? Because they dared to resist and became the first Black Republic in the Americas. So earthquakes hits Haiti, it's devastating. Hurricane is devastating. Not because the earthquake and the hurricane was bad, but because the infrastructure is so terrible that the impact just mushrooms. And now that leads into the context in which families are destroyed because so-and-so died as a result of the earthquake and more trauma in the family.
Yeah.
Right? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So when I say like this identity thing is so important, because it has so many implications socially, economically, politically, because I understand myself as an African. As an African coming through the Caribbean. When these things happen, I'm not just connected to the Africans in Jamaica and Antigua. I'm connected to the Africans in Haiti, in Congo, right? In wherever it is. And there's a strength in the numbers that generates if we utilize it, that enables us and gives us the power to create meaningful change. Not just for our children, in our personal lineage in terms of how they understand themselves, but for our communities and our nations in terms of how we act in relationship to the world in which we're in.
You know why? Because I'm just like, I'm very much a doer, so I like to do stuff.
Yes.
I think I'm a little less feminine in that aspect. I'm very much a how do we fix it? How do we troubleshoot? What we doing?
Yeah, we can do that.
I don't know. What can we do to help? Because we know the problems.
Yep.
Yeah. How do we fix it?
I question sometimes the extent to which we do know the problems. We say we do, but do we really? And I think an assessment is needed on the extent to which we do know the problems. Let's use this natural disaster.
Real loosely.
Right, yes, indeed. As an example. We gather and we rally to help because we understand our connection to our people back home on some level. Yeah? But the extent to which we consider, like, do we just accept underdevelopment as like an organic reality? To what extent do we understand the extent of the effect as a consequence of underdevelopment more than it is natural disaster? You follow me? Like,
I follow you, but I'm just like, what can we do though? Because
but that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that to properly know is an act of doing. You know what I'm saying? So like, let's not assume that we know. Yeah? Let's do the work of actually knowing. That's doing something. And we need to embrace the fact that that is actually doing something, because solutions will come from a proper assessment of what the problem is.
Right.
Yeah? We all went to school and did maths. And if you start your equation in the middle, you're likely to get it wrong.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah?
Yeah.
So it's just what it is, right? You know what I'm saying? So, and that's why, your examiner wants you to show you're working out, because you can get it wrong, but your process may have had merits, right? This what I'm saying, like you showed understanding of the method, or of what the problem was, even if your ultimate solution may have been off in whatever. And when you do that, you can go back and tweak, and say, all right. So let's not assume that we know, Yeah, I was at big up Diaspora Action. So they're a group of different organizations, one of which my daughter is in, called the Umoja Project. And they organize a drop-off point to send relief. They're sending specifically to Jamaica and Haiti. And so I interviewed a young sister called Nubia Asata. Check her out. Very, very important young woman. And you should probably interview her. I was asking her about the relief effort and what they're doing and how they're organizing it. She went into some detail about it. And then I said to her, asked her a question about the impacts of the hurricane. And she said, well, first of all, it's not a natural disaster. She said, hurricanes are caused by the heat at the sea level and the heat in the atmosphere. So if you study the science of hurricanes, you will know these things, that they're created based upon heat and cooling and all kind of different things, right? But she said the seas of the Caribbean have been made unnaturally warm, because of the operations of corporations in the Caribbean, oil corporations, for example, in the Caribbean, and what they're doing. Yeah. So a lot of us would consider it to be a natural disaster, right? Or act of God, and them kind of things there. So how much do we know? Right? This what I'm saying, right? So if we understand, well, actually, at least a contributory factor to these hurricanes and their increased frequency in our region at the moment is due to this thing over here, we would seek to solve the problem differently. So other than just building stronger homes and sending relief when the hurricane does come, we'll actually look at, who are these companies, right? And how can we address how they're operating, right, in our region that is affecting us in this kind of way, right? So I say, let's not assume that we know. Let's actually do the work of knowing. Once we know, there is no way around a certain level of organization, a certain level of social relationship networking that is targeted towards solving certain kinds of problems. I think one of the things that is, and this is let's do the macro and then see how it functions on the micro level. One of the problems is, in the Caribbean, that we operate as isolated nations.
Right.
So that when America comes, Jamaica operates as Jamaica, separate from Haiti, separate from Cuba, separate from Dominica, separate from Antigua and Trinidad and Tobago and Barbados. And so it's easy for us to be picked off, right, against each other. There's no people power because we don't have critical mass.
Right.
Yeah. One of the ways to look at that on the micro level is how we structure our identities as a African Caribbean diaspora.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? So the small island talk.
That was literally in my mind. I was politely listening to you, but I literally heard the ancestors, and when they come with that talk right there, I heard it.
Yeah. So it's good as a little joke here and there, right? You know what I'm saying? It's destructive. But when it gets to certain levels, it becomes destructive, socially destructive, right? That's what I'm saying. There is on the flip, because that talk often comes from my Jamaican people. It does. Right? On the flip side, though, there is an anti-Jamaicanness that comes from some islands sometimes as well. Yeah. Right. You know what I'm saying? Africans versus Caribbean, I feel done.
100%.
This is what I'm saying, right? Yeah. Because we have to start seeing our relationship to each other culturally. This is why, like, I'm very there's a lot of debate at the moment about black music. So me and you are music people, right? So we're there now. So let's start. Who are next hour after this?
I know.
No, but there's been a lot of and I'm like deeply embedded in like just black music traditions.
Yeah.
On so many levels, yeah. But there's so much beef that is generated around our music at the moment. Because we're all competing for space in a Euro-American market.
Right.
That's not controlled by us.
Right.
What we fighting
it's weird,
for,
strange.
Right? Yeah. So there's been all these debates, like when Choice FM, you're old enough to know what Choice FM is, right?
Of course. Of course. Yeah, man.
So when it got bought up by Capital, and they they took off the reggae shows, and so it became Capital Extra, and then they had they kept the Afrobeat show, and they were doing dance music, right? What they call dance music. So then this started to facilitate this beef now between reggae dancehall and Afrobeat that has kind of continued somewhat from that time until now. Then there's talk of Afrobeats taking over the road at Carnival. Yeah, there's been talk of this, which is not true, but people have been talking like it's the case. There's even been talk of like whether reggae dancehall should be played at Carnival and that kind of foolishness, right? But the point is that there are so many arenas in which we create discord amongst ourselves.
Right.
Like a couple of years ago, there's a dancehall or Afro dancehall artist called Stoneboy from Ghana. He's one of the biggest dancehall artists from Ghana.
Okay.
The only person who's and they have their lyrical war is another artist called Shatta who is like them saying him is a dancehall king in the whole Ghana, right? So those two are the biggest dancehall artists in Ghana. Stoneboy a couple years ago made a statement that Jamaicans are Africans and reggae music is African. And there was a big backlash against this man for saying this because it was being received as he's trying to take Jamaican heritage away from Jamaican people. And even despite I heard exactly what he said, because he wasn't saying that Ghana created reggae music. He was saying that the African people in Jamaica created reggae music. Therefore, it is African. That's what he was saying.
I hear that.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But people wanted to take it negatively. Right. So I'm saying So now, and because I was so much in these back and forth, I've watched interviews with him before, and there are interviews with him giving credit to the people of Jamaica for creating this music that he's doing.
Nice.
So clearly, right, he's not saying what you say he's saying, yeah?
Right.
And you can share that with people and people will still respond negatively and find some excuse to hold on to their neck, you know, just what I'm saying. So I'm saying that there are so many flashpoints in which we create these little divisions among us that weaken us all in general.
Right.
None of us are served by this because everybody in next year is going to look for a Grammy, which is an American construct, right? To validate the worth of our music, yeah? Why is Afrobeats not being pitted against country and Western and indie pop?
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like we're not pitting Burna Boy against Taylor Swift.
Right.
We're pitting Burna Boy against Beanie Man and Bounty Killer, yeah? And Skilly Bang, right?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, yeah, this is not necessary, right? So I'm saying, and all of us are weakened by this because it's not just the fact that our music is busting up the place, but the infrastructure around our music is not controlled by us, yeah? And so the implications of our division on a social level is political, it's economic, yeah, it's social, it's all of these things. We cannot, they're all connected is the part I'm making. So I'm saying on a micro level, we can just reinforce our shared connectedness within our uniqueness.
Yeah.
I am proud, yes, and embracing of all of the Africanness that came through Jamaica and Antigua. I love it.
100%.
Yeah, I was in, and I manifest it every year upon the road at Carnival, in full waistline, yes, in full wine and joke.
Yeah, man.
All right? I saw the thing go. You understand what I'm saying?
All right.
I ain't trying to get rid of any of that.
Hey.
You understand? Yeah, that's how it goes. Love it, embrace it. It's who we are. Yes? But embrace it in connection. So, like, and possibly because I have two islands. Yeah, like for example, when I was in school, like when the volcano that happened in Montserrat in the 90s, a lot of people from Montserrat came over here.
Yeah, I had some come to my school.
Right, you know what I'm saying? Because technically Montserrat is still under British, whatever, right? And one of the first things I was struck by is that people often talk to me about the fact that now, like, I never left the patois. That's what one person said. You never leave your patois, yeah? So, like, particularly talking Jamaican language. And as a child, that was significantly developed because a set of people from Jamaica came over and was in my school, and a set of people from Montserrat was in my school. And I was struck by by how similar people from Montserrat speak to people from Jamaica. And then Montserrat being so close to Antigua. So, you know, all these things, yeah? Like, and so the way I speak now is significantly impacted by the fact that I went to school with a whole heap of Montserratians. Okay. And all we used to talk is back home language. You're following me, yeah?
Funny.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So it's like, so I'm saying that there's so much connection between us, and we can appreciate our variety and our differences as a relationship with each other.
Yes.
Yeah, that you cannot discuss reggae music and calypso and zouk and all of these things without discussing Africa. But tell you better than that, you can't discuss high life from Ghana. You can't discuss Afrobeats without discussing Afro-Cuban music. Right. Yeah? Right. And calypso and rumba. Because not only do we bring from the continent, but what we produce where we are also returns and influences our brothers and sisters on the continent. There's a relationship that we cannot get away from.
It's a cycle.
It's a cycle.
It's all interconnected.
It's a beautiful cycle. Yeah. And if we understood it properly in terms of who we are, our identity, we would be able to wield it in so many different ways that we haven't realized yet because we're caught up on colonial definitions of who we are and aspiring to make it in colonial constructs. You follow me?
How do we reprogram the people who have less sense though?
It's not a matter of less sense. It's a matter of possibly less education. It's a matter of less exposure. Right. It's a matter of less environments to cultivate certain sensibilities. Because like you know, we live in an environment whereby, for example, a 9 to 5 is almost a requirement of having of living a comfortable life, right? If we
barely,
right, barely, yeah,
barely
right?
in the old UK,
right? You know what I'm saying? Cost of
goodness
living and all of
me.
these things and rate here, right? Yeah. So, but if that wasn't a requirement, most of us would be doing other things with our time.
100%.
Right, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
it's, our environment dictates our activities
Yes.
at certain points. And what I'm saying is sometimes it's not a matter of it like you may come across certain kinds of knowledge in your life that inspire you a certain way, but you don't have the environment to utilize that knowledge in a way that allows you to buy a house, right, and raise your pitney and put clothes on them back and feed them and all of these things, and that's a challenge that we have to overcome.
Right.
But because of that, a lot of people won't know. Like then we're not in environments that encourage us to read Walter Rodney, How Europe Underdeveloped Africa, because what use is that going to be for me in my life right now, right? This what I'm saying.
Oh, sorry to interject, but even so, I was talking to a brother last week and was telling him about this podcast and whatnot, and he was telling me that he's put together a book club for the brothers.
Right.
And as much as, because he wants to also just encourage the conversation amongst yourselves.
Absolutely.
And he literally said the biggest problem he has, that, you know what I'm about to say. Man's don't read.
Yeah.
He said that wasn't me.
Yeah.
He said that.
Yeah.
So the solution's there.
Yeah.
But as they say, you can take a horse to water. But how are we making people pick up the book, read it, and then go and have a conversation?
I agree.
Constructive conversation
I agree.
with the next person. It's
a challenge that we have to welcome for those of us who think we know something. It's not enough for us to look at our people and say, well, I'm not reading a book. And don't get me twisted. I understand the emotion. I'm not dismissing what the brother's experience. I'm saying that we have to challenge ourselves to find creative ways of overcoming that problem. One of the ways I'm trying to do it, I'm currently I'm in pre-production for a show called the Ujamaa Black Group Economic Show. I am not an economist.
Okay.
You understand?
Yeah.
Right?
Well, you're producing it though.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm writing it. Right. As now I've made myself a lay student of it.
Yeah.
So that I can produce that show.
Right.
Why? I don't expect everyone who watches the show when it is released to read all the books that I read in order to produce the show. I'm doing all of the reading so that I can present the information in a way that is easier to digest. Yeah. For the parents who work a 9 to 5 and are trying to send their children to boarding school in Nigeria, right? For example, do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, you know, reading 10 books a year may not be a priority. And we want to encourage that, but then we have to increase the value of that. Right, within our environments. The brother that you just spoke of is doing that in the sense of he tried to create an environment. Yes, to engage in these kinds of conversations. There really is going to be a certain level of activism that is going to be required to make it properly functional. Why I'm saying that is because our nations operate in a certain kind of way that the knowledge that we will read is not going to become viable because they don't want to implement the solutions that are going to come out of it. You know what I'm saying, right? And so there's a certain level of campaigning and a certain level of organizing that's going to make all of the stuff that we're studying viable in a way that it will become productive on our national level. You spoke about going back home, and that kind of cultural exchange. The most maximized example of it is when our nations collectively facilitate that. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah? But we're not constructing the way that's going to allow it to happen. And not just because you're Jamaican, go to Jamaica. Maybe because you're Jamaican, go visit St. Vincent. You see what I'm saying?
Of course.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Visit Congo, right? You know what I'm saying, right? But we have to have a relationship, with each other. Yeah. That's going to help to facilitate those things on that level. And at the moment, we don't have the context for that. So we're going to have to demand that. As a people, we struggle right now, even for the nations from which we come from, to have a proper relationship with us as the direct descendants. You know how much people that I know from the Caribbean, they struggle to get their Barbados passport or their whatever passport it is, and be considered within the political process and so on and so forth.
Right.
But that's going to happen when more of us who are in the Caribbean diaspora, in the African diaspora, make a demand and raise our voices. Yeah. But again, that's going to require us to develop some relationships. Because it's not just going to happen in Jamaica by itself. Like, we have to connect over here and say, all right, collectively, the whole of way, from the whole of the island, them, yeah, as based upon our identification with each other as a people, are going to demand this of our government. Yeah, based upon our social, like we can demonstrate these are the fruits of us in this diaspora developing our social relationships in such a way we're able to produce all of this, whatever it is, out of it. Now we're demanding that our governments do the same so that our children can grow up having a connection to their back home nations properly and our culture. You know how much one of the things that I learned when I went to Antigua, I love steel pan. I love steel pan, right? I know the Caribbean loves steel pan, but besides Trinidad, Antigua is the nation that takes steel pan most serious. Right. I didn't know the extent above, say, an island like Grenada, that steel pan is taken in Antigua. Okay. That's one of the things that I took back with me, yeah? So like my love for steel pan come from somewhere, like it's deep in me, yeah? Right. You know what I'm saying? And I grew with it even deeper. But there's a whole tradition, like you know what the steel pan again comes out of resistance. Them take away the drum, and it comes and it's created out of the fact that there's an oil discovery in Trinidad, and so there's oil drums now, as in being transported into the island, and out of that, this instrument is created. Right, you know what I'm saying? And then that proliferates around the Caribbean. I don't know if you ever listened to a steel band arranger. Yeah, that the person who composes and constructs arrangement for a steel pan.
Oh, I know one, yeah.
It's a powerful process.
Yeah.
It's like genius. Yeah. Yeah. And but there's so much in that activity that we lose.
And this is what it's not lost yet, though.
No, it's not, right? It's not lost yet.
We're taking action right now, even having this conversation.
Right, you know what I'm saying? So I'm saying there's something in that in terms of cultural exchange. Like, like what them that are studying music at college and university, what if they went to do a steel pan scholarship in Trinidad, Antigua, right? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But these are things that have to be developed. We have to demand them. As a people, we have to know ourselves as a people in order to develop the kind of organizations that we need to be able to demand these things. Right. So our identity is not just a pretty thing that we, when Carnival comes, we take out the flag and wave it on the road. Right. It's got to be more than that. 100%. That's very superficial. Yeah. It's got to manifest itself in our material reality, in the ways that our homes are built. Yep. In our relationship to back home. In how we choose and construct our governments, how we choose, and you had a beautiful conversation about education processes recently. All of these, like I was watching the Olympics. I think it was the Olympics or the World Cup some years ago when it was in Brazil, because they had it in Brazil consecutively one time, the Olympics and the World Cup one time. Right, yeah. So I was watching, I love to watch opening ceremonies. Whatever the nation is, and because it tells you a lot about the nation, how they see themselves. Yeah. And they had this section in the Brazilian opening ceremony where they said the arrival of the Africans. And that's a very nice way of putting it.
It's a nice way of putting it. It's surprising as well in terms of the country you speak of.
Right, you know what I'm saying? Brazil, the arrival. The Africa just arrived, you know what I'm saying? It was interesting. But I'm saying it says a lot about how Brazil views and considers its African population, that they could put something like that in their opening ceremony, that Africa just arrived. And so that factors into how Africans in Brazil, our conditions socially and economically and politically and etc. And I'm saying that we have to see our identity as a functional tool for changing our reality. We talk about manifestation, manifestation is not just individual.
Mm-hmm.
You one can manifest the entire world.
Mm-hmm.
Your consciousness is not the only consciousness operating in this world.
So we've got a conscious grid. We're all connected anyway.
Exactly. Marcus Garvey saying he defines God as universal intelligence.
Right.
And human beings are unitary particles of that universal intelligence. Yeah. So when I first heard it, it inspired me so much. I'm saying, so really, like when we connect up our particles, we manifest a greater level of universal intelligence or God consciousness. So I'm saying, well, what does that mean as a people who understand, like our indigenous spiritual systems understand us as a relationship with nature? Yeah, understand God as everything and all things at once. Yeah, what does that mean for us when we properly connect with each other as a force of nature to change our reality? Not just for big car, good homes and good sex, as important as those things are, but for good schools for our children to grow and learn within their cultural environment and feel proud of themselves, and have an economy that caters for every living thing in that environment as best we can as a principle. Yes.
And to feel comfortable when we know that when we transition, what we're leaving is gonna sustain and carry on what we would see as our dream and our mission as well. We can basically hand the baton over and entrust that as it goes through descendants.
Yes.
We're
everything
okay.
good. Yeah. And we used to have that. We used to have that generational thinking. Yeah. Part of the reason why we have generational trauma is because our capacity to think generationally was severed. Yeah. Like, what would it be to ask the question, how will our decisions today affect our generations 5 generations down in the future?
I think there's a lack of people who think like that. Yeah. And I hope that conversations like this encourage that more.
Yes. Yes.
Because it's definitely needed.
Yes.
Because I'm very concerned. I'm very concerned.
Yes.
Boy.
Well, let's be hopeful as well, because we are doing our work.
Yeah.
And so where there are those who are doing their work, there is hope, and we want to have faith in the work that we're doing, that it will produce fruits. And sometimes the fruits, we may never see the fruits.
Yeah.
We may never see the fruits in this physical form, but to have faith that when we plant those seeds, they will grow, and they may grow 20 years, 30, 50, 100 years in the future. But we can't but help to do our work.
We cultivate what we can while we are here.
Exactly.
You know.
So thank you for doing your work.
Thank you for doing your work. At least there's a minimum of 2 people doing work. Hey, there's hope.
Yes, indeed.
You've uplifted me though. You've given me hope, because you know when you think about so many things in your own brain, you're like, is there anybody else feeling like this?
Yes.
Is there anybody else thinking like this?
Yes.
Because there's enough people shouting, but it's a lot of hot air. I'm like, who's actually in a more meditative, more calm, more active space, who's just actually preying the things? Sorry, I've gone back to our slang. So some people, what does that mean? Like, you know, observing the things.
Yes.
I spoke it out into the universe and to other people's ears back in, on record, 2014.
Right.
So good 11 years ago, I said that I'm out of here.
Yeah.
However, my problem is, I'm like, but where am I going now?
Where you going? Yeah. and that's difficult, because we're so tied to the lives that we've built here. Even if we don't feel overly connected to the country, we've got families. It's not a small thing to ups and leave all of that. You know what I'm saying? Like, most of us could do without our jobs if we had other gainful employment elsewhere, right? Most of us could do without the yard that we're living in. If we, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, but it's the social thing. It's the fact that grandma is here, and you know, Aunt Merkel, they're up the road. And you know what I mean? And you know, these things, right? It's these things.
Right.
It's difficult. There's no easy answers to these things. And there was a time there's been reports, I think even BBC did a report some years ago about the fact that a lot of us are either returning more to back home to live or to stay long term, like half or whatever. And I think that's good. Yeah. You know, like this is like second generation, third generation. The challenge is that a lot of us, when we go back home, we find it very challenging.
Right.
Because of the long queue at the bank.
I cannot. I have these conversations. So
right, you know what I'm saying?
I'm like, as much as I love
the
Caribbean,
it's challenging. It's challenging.
I don't feel like I can live
right,
there,
it's challenging. It's very challenging.
I'm more look to the continent. I more look to the motherland.
That's even challenging
once again,
too.
I'm like, but where though?
Yeah, right. It's challenging. Cause you get me. Your Amazon delivery ain't gonna come. Yeah, at least not as quickly, right? You know what I'm saying? So I'm saying it's challenging, but depending on what our purpose is, some of us are gonna have to make the decision to deal with those challenges for whatever greater good comes out of it.
Listen, if I had a husband, I'd go, you know.
I'll pray for you.
Because it's me one, you know, that I've not gone nowhere. I'm like, my person. Just roll.
Yeah. That makes sense. That's a
manifestation.
Yeah, you know, manifestation. No, and I think that helps, because what you're really saying there is that you would like someone to face the challenges with. Yeah. That's a natural vibration. It just depends on what our collective goals are as a people. Yeah, like when that would dictate what we see as a viable challenge or not. Like there's a book called I think it's Falsification of African Consciousness by Amos Wilson, and he was defining identity, and he says identity teaches you what to sacrifice and what to sacrifice for. We will sacrifice in various different ways. And some of us, it's because we want to step up on the ladder in British society, so we'll sacrifice for that. Yeah, and those sacrifices are worthy for the sake of the group, the masses of our people who are here to overcome certain levels of discrimination. Yeah, like let's not underestimate the value of that. But then there are also sacrifices that are going to need to be made to ensure that when we go back home, some of these challenges are addressed and dealt with, right? They're all a consequence of underdevelopment. There's nothing natural about them.
Right.
There's nothing it's not an inevitability. They're there because of the fact that, generally speaking, our nations are constructed for the interests of nations that are outside of ourselves. And we just have to develop the understanding that the only way to solve these problems is to address those things. So there are people that go back home, to start schools.
Right.
Yeah, and that's a very simple way of trying to have an impact upon the younger generations who become the adults of tomorrow.
Right.
And developing a curriculum that is teaching them everything that the national curriculum is not going to teach them.
Yes.
Right, you know what I'm saying? And so from the building of those institutions, there is an opportunity to grow and develop more of those institutions and cater for a wider net of our children, that they're able to experience the benefits of that kind of education. I'm in media, and again, just try to develop shows like that are not just talking about who should pay on the first date. And
when you're so over it, I'm so over it. I'm like, can we please
have
I'm saying? More constructive things happening on the media?
It's like it's things like that. Just expose people to things that are
productive and constructive.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, it's necessary. It's necessary. And it's a challenge. We were having a conversation about marketing before we started shooting. It's a challenge, like we getting away from the noise. The noise, at least half of the noise in this world, is to do with somebody marketing something.
True.
To us.
Right.
So the marketing space is saturated.
Right.
Everything is vying for our attention. I was watching this educationist. I forget his name. He's a white guy, but he's very well known, like educationist. And he was saying something about the fact that he was talking about the fact that the education system as it is currently constituted in the Western world is outdated.
Yes, definitely.
he was saying that, like, talking about the children having attention issues. And he said, but they're existing in an environment whereby their senses are constantly stimulated. Overstimulated.
Yeah.
More than any other point in history.
Yes.
And we're cursing them out because they have attention issues. Of course they have attention issues. Everything is vying for their attention. This is why spirituality is entirely important. Because spirituality and spiritual rituals depend most on us. Like the technology of our bodies and our mind.
Right.
Yeah? The ability to tune out and focus inwardly is not easy, and it's something that you have to be able to train to master.
Right.
Yeah?
Yeah.
We're talking about meditation here. Yeah? Rituals of various different kinds are almost designed to take you out of one space and bring you into another space to contemplate something different than what you was contemplating in the space that you're coming from.
Yeah.
So what the rituals do is they teach us, they give us methodologies to accomplish quietening the noise of the world.
Right.
Yeah? Prayer, meditation, dance, song, drumming, chanting. Naya bingi, go naya bingi. One chant can go on for a whole hour. Yeah, repetition over and over again.
And fully shift your vibration.
Fully shift the vibration. And my dad put it beautifully one time. He said, and in the repetition of the word becomes flesh. Because you become the living embodiment of that which you are chanting as it shapes your consciousness.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm paraphrasing, but he probably said it more beautiful than I just did it. But it's something like that. Yeah. And so that's why spirituality becomes important. Like getting reacquainted with the technologies of our bodies and our mind is so important. And this is another reason why identity and our culture is entirely important, because we have so many, like coming from Jamaica, dancehall wouldn't exist if it wasn't for kumina. And kumina is a drumming, for those who are not aware, kumina is a drumming and chanting tradition that was brought to Jamaica by our Conga ancestors. Yeah? And people still beat kumina. Somebody born, kumina. Somebody dead, especially if somebody dead.
That's like my son's funeral. My uncle was coming out, so he did that at my son's funeral.
You know what I'm saying? And love to the spirit of your son,
Thank you.
But I'm saying that we're losing a lot of these things, even back home. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. There was a football match, the Unity Cup this year. The football match. I don't know if you know about the Unity Cup, but it was like they had Ghana versus Nigeria, then they had Jamaica versus Trinidad, and the winner of each of those matches played each other in the final. So it was like 3 days of football matches. It was beautiful, a beautiful occasion. I went to all of the matches.
Nice.
Like if you've ever been to a Ghana football match before, you will know that like before and after the match, especially after, somebody has come to the match with a trumpet, usually a trumpet, and one or two different drums, yeah? And, it's a whole vibe outside the football match, right? And everybody knows these songs and so on and so forth, rotated. And my cousin said, Jamaica needs something similar. And I said, but not enough Jamaicans know kumina. Because the equivalent with that, there's a whole, not just kumina, because there's other traditions, right? But there's a whole bunch of Jamaican folk songs that a lot of our children don't know.
That concerns me,
right?
Because sorry to interject, but because we've got a lot of family and whoever transitioning now as well, so therefore we're going to a lot of sending home ceremonies. Right. Just a simple thing of because this is educational for the younger people. People who are not familiar with that.
We know what I say. Yeah.
We always we fill in the grave. We bury our dead.
Yes,
So it's a case of majority of the time, it's always the men who do it. However, because I'm Alicia.
Indeed.
I'm the odd female who's always there. Everyone in my
There's always one, there's always one. So we have to dig dirt to
me with the big shovel, I'm there. Yeah, literally.
Indeed.
And that is such a powerful part of our traditions.
Yeah, man.
So the thing that's actually thrown me in more recent funerals I've been to, not so much family, but other people, when I've seen the digger come along and start
big tractor.
spiritually,
it's
that
wrong.
actually really affects me, because I'm like, oh my gosh, but to add what you're saying, that's what the younger people are seeing. They're not seeing that. No, we don't do that.
Yeah, man.
Everybody better pick up this shovel and we lay our people to rest.
No, absolutely.
And that's just an example of so many things that are important.
I give thanks to my father, you know. There's not a grave side that I could go to as a child. It doesn't matter if I knew the person all my life or never knew them at all. If we got to a graveside, you have to dig some dirt and put something in it. There's no funeral I got to. Right. But I'm let me add to what you're saying. It's even a problem. Like when I was a child, graveside was a thing. Like elders, them come at graveside, them know how the thing go. Yeah. Sometimes you have song sheet, sometimes you're not on a song sheet. But one elder would lead the chanting.
100%.
Everybody, and if you don't know that, you're humming hard until you get this. You know what I'm saying? And it was a vibe.
It's a vibe,
right? It's a vibe.
Yeah.
But we don't get them kind of vibes there again when it comes to graveside. Man want bring speaker to the graveside.
Yeah.
And I'm saying there's a level upon which the technology and rate, but why must it become like the speaker's presence means that the rest of the gathered become passive engagers?
Very passive.
Right, you know what I'm saying? So if the speaker is there, let's chart with the speaker then. You know what I'm saying? Or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Whatever. But let's be involved in raising the spirit of this individual who has been deceased and cooling the spirit of those who are closest. Yeah? Right? You know what I'm saying? That's what that was all about.
And it comes down to, as you're saying, it's just passing on that knowledge and how important it is, because it's, as we was talking about sound before, it's not just singing on one tune.
That's not it.
There's the vibrations, there's the love, there's the energy, there's so many things. It's the us coming together and sending the person off. There's so much that we have to impart, and
so much. But we're not gonna do it if we don't have a connection to who we are. The people that are going to preserve those things, preserve them because it's valuable to them because of their understanding of who they are. Yeah? That's why you want to preserve these things. The people that preserve, because there are some of our ancestors actively preserve these things. I grew up listening to Miss Louise Bennett. Yeah? She actively went around for the sake of documenting all of the things that she taught. Another woman by the name of Olive Lewin. She's less well known but very important. She was the founder of an institution called the Jamaican Folk Singers. So I've got my dad had their albums growing up, right? But a lot of Jamaican folk songs, you know, they recorded. And she's written books on Jamaican folk singing and African connection and so on and so forth. I'm not a Christian. Yeah. But it's surprising to me, and for people that know me, they will be surprised that going to graveside and sometimes I have to lead Christian singing because people are not singing, right?
You just cater to the crowd, don't you?
Right, yeah.
And it's more of a vibration thing.
Right, you know what I'm saying? But I'm saying, it's funny to see ShakaRa singing How Great Thou Art louder than everybody, because I'm not a Christian, right? But it's a part of the tradition, isn't it? Right? You know what I'm saying? So I'm saying that these things need to be transmitted, right? If we are overly concerned with just absorbing ourselves into British society, what is the worth of transmitting these things? Yeah? It's better you teach to them Sweet Caroline. Oh my gosh. No, I mean, it's like, what's the because that has a functionality within the society in which they live, innit?
Right.
So these things are functional when we have some identity that we see as valuable to build on and to build from. And these chants and these songs and these rituals become an expression of reinforcing those things, right? You know what I'm saying? And so that's why the transmission becomes therefore important. And you're so correct. It's not just a song. Like, especially our indigenous songs. They're not just songs. Yeah? There's a whole thing about sound and vibration in it. And then there's a next thing about the lyrics in the song and the historical context in which they come about that connect you directly to our ancestors. Yeah, and whatever they were experiencing at a particular moment in time. A song might be a work song. A song, you know, a popular one. Daylight come and me want to go home. It's a work song. Come on, you used to have to work banana. Come, Mr. Tallyman, telling me banana. Where is this coming from? It's coming from the context of our elders and ancestors, because banana was one of the major things that was being grown in the region. Again, that's associated with colonization. But the point is, this is how they responded to this thing. They created this art and this music and these chants out of it. Yeah. Otherwise, our ancestors are lost to us. That we can't access them. And there are ways that we access them in those forms that we can't access them in our book.
Right.
Yeah. Not to say that the reading of the book is, we've already spoke about that's important. But there's something that comes with engaging in the culture that our ancestors have given us that allows you to live it in a way that you can't live it when you're just studying it in book form.
Right.
That this becomes even more beneficial when you're able to take it off the page. Yeah, and manifest it in some kind of way.
Definitely, just applying it to real life, because that also ties into what we was talking about earlier in terms of when I was saying I feel like part of the education is to take people home to wherever their home is. As you just rightly said, there's a difference in historically in terms of going to the house that your foremothers and forefathers group, like it puts a different context in your brain. Like when I've gone to the houses that my granddad was born in, or my grandmother, the other one where my grandmother was born in, and you mean what? You see the one room, and you know there's how much people living in this room,
absolutely,
and then you see but you're feeling it, and then also just when you go home and you even see that. The ancestors are actually buried on the land as well, whereas obviously here in the UK it's different. We have cemeteries.
Yeah.
There's a different connection to the history. You're walking around, you're looking at trees that oh my gosh, my granddad when he was 2, he probably climbed that tree, etc. Even just another thing that warmed me about one of the times that I went home and nobody knew who was coming, and I remember going to the town that's local to where my maternal grandparents are from. People just look me in my face and says, "Oh, you're a Mullings." What? Because you look like them?
Yeah.
That's beautiful to me, and that is an education in itself. In terms of when they say family can't hide.
Absolutely.
And your genes are telling people who you are. It's random people know who you come from.
And sometimes, especially coming from the Caribbean, we don't feel like we have that.
Right.
What we do. There's places I can go and have a similar experience. And I remember being in Ghana one time with my brethren who's from Ghana. So the city of Accra, which is the capital of Ghana, is a city that was created or developed by the Ga people. And so my brethren is Ga. And so we was randomly on a beach, Labadi Beach. And this brethren, I can't remember what he was doing there, but he got talking to us. And he asked my brethren what his name is, and my brethren said his name. And he said, "Hey, ho, hey!" Right? Because he'd never met him before, but just by his name, he knew his family was. He knew what his station in the family was.
Right.
He could take you to his family land, right? So you know what I'm saying. So he said, "Yeah, the whole of Overde, he owns it."
Powerful,
right? Just like that.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying. There's something powerful in those connections. As I said to you, I experienced it going back home as well. Similar. Like I just understanding my grandma more. My grandma. There's a lot. She had a lot of challenges. In life, but you understand it so much more when you're there. And the fact that, like, for example, Antigua only got independence in 1981.
Gosh, only the other day, technically.
1981. Yeah, which is mad. And then now, you listen to the music. One thing I love to do is listen to the music of an independence era,
right,
in Africa and the Caribbean. I love to do that to what people were saying, right?
Right.
And so you listen to a lot of the music. There's a Calypsonian from Antigua called King Obstinate, and he has a song called Antigua's True Heroes. Or Sons of the Soil. And it's funny because we went on this tour of the island, and we went to that place, Nelson's Dockyard and Princess so-and-so, whatever it is, and this song from King Obstinate is basically, this is like 1970s, 80s Calypso. It's saying, yeah, really, we need to get rid of all these English names in our island. These places that are named after all these, like Horatio Nelson and Francis Drake, and we need to really sort this out, like why would I name it after Viv Richards, and and you know what I mean? But you go there 40 years, 40 odd years later, and you still find the same names.
Right.
Yeah, but our elders, two generations ago now, if we use 20 years as a generational marker, we're saying, like, as a part of our coming into ourselves as a nation, we have to change some of these colonial names
100%.
that are around us. Yeah.
Just to add to what you're saying, because I got, like, yeah, something clicked. Like, I had an experience in terms of my name.
Yeah.
I remember I went to, I think I was in Goldsmiths College or something. For some reason, I was in there, and the friend I was in there with, they had a friend who's literally got introduced to me. So the friend says to me, "Oh, what's your name?" Nigerian man. What's your name? So I told him my name. He's like, "Oh, what's your family name?" I told him, and he's like, "No, what's your name?" I told him my name. I said, "What's my name?" The man he was then frustrated with my name, and then it, like, you know, when the penny drops, I was like, "Oh, I don't know what my name is."
Right.
I actually got really emotional because it was like the first time I had that type of encounter. I was like, "No, what is your name?"
Yeah.
This is the name they gave my ancestors. You know.
I hear that. I put people through that experience differently. Like, when I know someone is from the continent and they give me a European name, I said, "Oh, well, what's your name though?" Right? And then, you know,
it hurts.
No, it does, and it's one of the reasons, because I don't have the experience only because my father decided that he wasn't giving his children any European names.
Love that.
Right? And I get it, because there are some people who, because of there's a family history now associated with this name. Yeah, like you said, you can go to Jamaica, and if you say Marlins, people know your family, right? So, and it's same. Like my in Jamaica, the Walker clan, yeah, Hanover and Retete, that is a thing. You go places, you go certain places, and you can say Walker clan, them know Wagwan, right? At the same time, I've always been grateful for the fact that I've never been named after a slave master.
I can understand why.
I've always been grateful.
Makes all the sense in the
right,
world.
for that fact. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm saying to say, I understand why we now have connections to these names and so on. And when I said what I said, I wasn't even talking about our personal names. I was more talking about the names of our edifices and our streets. And you know what I'm saying, when we're back home. But it does operate on this level as well. Right. You know, because I can say that to my son now, you know, it's an education, because my family name is Bandaka. And that is the name that my dad reclaimed. And the story behind that reclamation is Bandaka is the name of a place in Congo, a city in Congo. And he chose that name because at the time that he was going through all these processes of, as we would say, reclaiming African names, he was studying Patrice Lumumba, first Prime Minister of the Congo. Right. And so he was so taken with Lumumba, the man and his story and so on, and the fact that Congo is in the heart of Africa. So he wanted a name that symbolized kind of like returning to the source. Yeah. And Congo being the heart of Africa, so Bandaka became that name. But there's a story in that too. That I like, because some people would say, well, you're disconnecting from, you know, like my grandfather's name or so on and so forth. And I say no, and my dad would say no. We're not disconnecting from my grandfather. We're disconnecting from the enslaver who gave us this name, right? But then there's a power in being able to tell my son, this is how we got this name. This is the story behind how we got this name. Yeah. And that's the story behind how that other name came down the line. Right. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. There's a power in the agency of saying, actually, nah, we're going to reclaim this name for this purpose. Yes. Yeah, and being able to transmit that down my family line that I understood for myself because I was always thankful for it. But the power of it has reinforced itself to me by telling my son this story. You know, so yeah, I would encourage everybody, all of us, to get some Africa in our names. Even if my father and the tradition that we come from is very cutthroat. Like, you can't even call my father by
I need to meet your father.
Right, you know what
I
I'm saying?
need to
You
get
can't-
him on the podcast as well, man.
You know what I mean? It's cutthroat. You know what I mean? When they even recognize, like there's an interview of Malcolm X one time where he's speaking about like the interview trying to get him to say what the name that he was given at birth was, and Malcolm X is just refusing to say it.
Right.
And it got to the point where he said, "Yeah, so you mean you won't even tell me what your birth name is?" He said, "I never acknowledge it whatsoever." Yeah, he would go on, like you're saying, my father didn't know his name. His name was given to him by the right. It's that kind of thing. And yeah, we need to recognize these things. And I think that the more of us that do those things, there are powerful stories in terms of how we can translate that down to our children. And some of us, like, the more we know about ourselves, the more we have the tools to be able to make those decisions from an informed place that makes sense.
Right.
Yeah. To our journey as a people, not just in the broader sense, but our journey as a particular families. Right. So we may not know, and the reality is you don't have one. Yeah. Like, and the reality is family names didn't operate the same in every culture. So even where family names existed in that kind of way, because some of our ancestors are Yoruba, some of them are Ashanti, some of them are Kikongo. So, you know what I'm saying? Some of it's just like there's not one, right? You know what I'm saying? So there's no one family name you're gonna find. This is it, right? But that knowledge, for those who want to make those decisions, the knowledge of the different groups and languages that make up our people can inform how we make those decisions. And then let us not also discard how those languages manifested in wherever we are. Like Jamaican patois has a lot of retentions from Igbo and Tree and whatever, and it may not sound the same as, say for example, a name like Talawa. Talawa is a word really, means strong. You're looking about your Talawa. But I know many people who, when they want to reclaim an African name, they choose the name Talawa.
Makes sense.
Right. But Talawa is not a name, not a word that it's not directly in Tree or Yoruba, or it's a word that is indigenous, let's say, to the African people who came to Jamaica and the Caribbean. Yeah. But it's just as legitimate in terms of who we are. There are terms that we have that we may not say the same as they are said in the original language from which it comes, but it's legitimate for our evolution as a people, as a composite of all of these different Africans in this island or this group of islands or whatever, you know. The more we are attuned to this knowledge of who we are and our ancestors, our journeys, we're able to make those decisions from a more informed place that is, you know, that goes beyond, but just want an African name, right? You know what I'm saying? We're being more, let's say, scientific about how we go about it.
Just also being mindful about certain things as well, because even though we say that, and that's beautiful, and I definitely overstand and agree that we should be doing that, when we still live in the Western Hemisphere, and unless you've got a family business set up or you're doing your own independent entrepreneurship, we have to also be aware of the racism that pops up in terms of names. If you put in a certain name on a CV, and that's not just us as black people. Like you see the Asian people change their name and blah 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 as well to be able to come and work in certain places. I'm all for encouraging that, but also just be mindful of certain things. So if you just maybe operating with your name, and then when you make your CV or whatever.
No, I get it. To be fair though, I've never had that option. My name is my name. I've never had any other name, and I've lived with it. I wouldn't have it any other way. And I'm only saying that to say, we know the statistics, right? That if certain names will not get, and I'm sure I've applied for jobs and not got them. You know, but if you ask me, would I have liked to have had a different name so I could have got the job? I said to you, no.
Oh yeah, definitely not. I'm just saying, just sort the blend out. That's all. I'm just like sort of be mindful that there needs to be a blend.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? No, and there are some people that go through different processes, right? So I know some people that they have their African name, and they use it in particular circumstances.
There you go.
You know what I'm saying? You know, they go through a process of evolving to more usage of that name. Not just immediately. They might go through a 3 months or 5 or 3 year process of, you know what I'm saying, transitioning to a more official use of that. So people go through their different processes. The only point, and as I said, I was making it on the more like national level, is that so much of landscape is still defined by this, our relationship to Britain, the relationship that was oppressive, if that makes sense.
Right.
So we haven't liberated our space, yeah, from them and their domination, because Queen Elizabeth and King George still cast a large shadow over who we say we are, which is
right.
And so I'm like, so in the sense of developing an education that speaks to our children and their culture, that's a powerful story to tell. This place was named so and so through colonization. When we became free, we renamed it to make it a reflection of who we are as a people, not a reflection of the people that colonized us, but who we are. There's something empowering in that, you know. The process itself is empowering, and then being able to transmit that to another generation is further empowering, you know.
It's been a beautiful conversation, and I feel like we could keep going. I literally just had another topic, and I said, you know what, no. We'll make you a friend of the podcast.
Absolutely.
And you definitely need to come back.
Yes.
But this has been amazing. Have you got any last words that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Edupre, Medase, Tatenda, all of which mean thank you. Matondo, which means thank you for creating this space, for doing this work, and for inviting me again in the unique way that you did. I'm gonna stay in tune and keep watching. I am sure that this work that you're doing will continue to grow and develop.
Thank you.
And have the impact that it's supposed to be having. So thank you very much.
Most welcome. Thank you so much for being here. This has been absolutely incredible episodes. Amazing, wonderful guest. It was definitely going to be a friend of this podcast. Thank you for your time. And as usual, I'd say please subscribe, please share, please reach out to myself or Mr. ShakaRa, and let's keep the conversations going. And if you know of anybody who would really be blessed by this episode, please share with them also. And all I can say is be blessed.